Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's bite-sized Buhl. My name is Carissa Sedor, and I am a presenter in the Buhl Planetarium at the Science Center. And I'm excited to bring you today some of our nighttime sky. So while the Science Center is closed temporarily right now, we're still working on lots of fun virtual programming for you to enjoy at home. So today we're going to talk a lot about what we can see in our current night sky, as well as some really exciting things that are about to come up. So that I'm sure you may have heard about a little bit, but we're going to dive into those a bit today. But I just want to start by looking at what our sky looks like, because there is a lot going on right now. The winter time, we're approaching winter. Although if we look outside right now, it certainly feels like winter is fully here already. And hopefully the skies clear up over this weekend. We'll see. But there is a lot of really exciting stuff for us to see in the winter sky. So I have a program over here that it's going to help us look at our nighttime sky a little bit. This is a really fun program, by the way. You can download it at home for yourself. It's called Stellarium, and it's free astronomy software, so you can use it to explore the night sky for yourself as well. But we're going to start our nighttime sky tour just after sunset. So the sunset's pretty early this time of year. It gets dark really early, and I'm going to have our sky set to about 6 p.m. So at about 6 o'clock, it'll be nice and dark, and we'll be able to see a lot of stars in our sky. And as you can see on my screen over here that I'm looking at with my sky map up, we're facing the northern part of the sky right now. So there's a lot of things we can look for. Now, right now, it's pretty low on the horizon this time of year, but there's a group of 7 stars that we can look for. That's a very useful guidepost in our nighttime sky. So this is a group of 7 stars you might recognize as the Big Dipper. One of those stars is hidden by the tree there. There we can see the whole Big Dipper. It is pretty low in the sky this time of year, but it's not always. And we'll talk about why that is in a moment as well. But the Big Dipper is part of a constellation in this part of the sky here. You can see there are lots of stars in this constellation. This is Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So we can see the Big Bear low in our sky right now. The Big Dipper is what is known as an asterism, and that means the star picture. Aster means a star, so it's a star shape or a star picture. But those are not necessarily constellations. Our constellations are the official map of our sky. They're what we use all around the world to know that everyone's looking at the same thing. So different people might see different pictures in the sky. Different cultures might see different pictures. Here in the United States, we see the Big Dipper. In some parts of Europe, they call this the plow. Other cultures see a wagon or a chariot. So it just depends on whose story you're talking about at any given time. But we have our official map, our constellations, and that's what maps out our sky. So Ursa Major, being one of those easy ones we can look for. You can use Ursa Major. It's really helpful. Once you find the Big Dipper, it can actually help you find a lot of other things in the sky. Now, this time of year, it's pretty low in the sky, so we're going to use it mainly to find one main player in the sky. We're going to use these 2 stars in the Big Dipper, in the bowl of the Big Dipper. And their names are Merak and Dubby. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 stars and draw an imaginary line through the sky till we get to this star right here. It's a very famous star. Its name is Polaris, but you might know it better as the North Star. So that is our North Star. Now, there's a common misconception out there that states that the North Star is the brightest star in the night sky. That's not actually true. It's not very bright compared to a lot of other stars. It's actually number 48 down on the list. So certainly not the brightest, but it's still very famous for a really good reason. It's a very important star. Now, first of all, we can actually see that the North Star, why do you think it got that name? The North Star points due north. We can see the North Star lines up with the northern horizon. So if you're not sure which direction is north, you can start by scanning the sky, looking for the Big Dipper, and using the Big Dipper to point you towards the North Star. And then you'll know you're facing north. So we found the North Star. We can see it's connected to another pretty famous group of stars. This, of course, is our Little Dipper. And our Little Dipper is another asterism. And so it's part of another constellation. This is the constellation of Ursa Minor. We have, of course, the Little Bear. So we have the big and little bears right next to each other. We can get a little bit of a closer view of these two bears in our sky. All right. Now we can use that line we drew from the Big Dipper to help us find another group of stars in the sky. So this is a really useful game. We call it star hopping, right? Where we hop from star to star to help us figure out what we're looking at in the sky. Because it can be a little confusing at first sometimes. There's a lot of white dots up there. So using familiar and bright reference points like these can really help you map out the whole picture. Now we're going to use these same two stars, and we're going to draw that line, and this time extend it past Polaris till we get to this zigzag group of stars. It's high over our heads right now at this time. This is this kind of M shape or 3 shape right now. And this makes up a constellation called Cassiopeia. She is a queen. So we can see a queen in the sky. Cassiopeia, according to mythology, was a very vain queen, which is why she's pictured holding a mirror. Now, right next to Cassiopeia, we can see 5 stars in kind of an upside down house or home plate shape. And this is the constellation of Cepheus, the king. So we have the king and the queen right next to each other in the sky. And another constellation we can find in this part of the sky, this long winding trail, it kind of wraps around between the two dippers and around the Little Bear, right? Arcs around like this. This is the constellation of Draco. Draco the dragon. All right, so these are just some of the things we can see in the northern part of our sky, which is a pretty special part of the sky. And if we take a look, if I make time go faster a little bit here, we're going to see how the sky changes over time. We see the sky change over time. And it's not because the stars are moving. And if you see little things streaking by, those are actually satellites. Stellarium has a lot of satellites in its system. But the stars themselves are going to look like they're moving a little bit. Let's slow it down a little bit there. That was a little too quick. The sky's going to change over time. And you can see over here how quickly I have time fast forwarding right now, so not too fast, but we can see some things happening. You might notice this kind of rotation happening. It looks like the sky is rotating, but that's not the sky rotating, right? You might be able to guess what's rotating. It's actually the Earth that's rotating, right? It's the Earth's rotation that causes a lot of these changes that we see in our sky. So it's the reason why we see different stars at different times of night, but also different times of year, because the Earth is also orbiting the sun. So the nighttime side of the Earth faces different directions depending on where it is in its orbit. But right now we're just looking at one night's worth of motion, just a couple hours worth of motion. And we can notice some stars popping up over here towards the east. So we have stars rising in the east. We see them make their way across the sky. And we see stars setting over here in the west. So just like the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, the sun's not moving across our sky either, right? That's the Earth rotating. So we can see that just by looking at the sky. And it's something very easy to track, especially right now, since the sun sets so early. You can actually go out at dinner time, see where the stars are, have your dinner, go back outside and see where the stars have moved, see how much the sky has shifted. So we can see this motion happening just over the course of a few hours. So I'm going to stop that motion again. We're going to go back to, this is just now at about 10 o'clock in the evening, but we're going to go back to just about 6 o'clock, which is 1800 hours. There we go. All right, so lots of things we can see in this northern part of our sky. What we notice is these constellations actually don't set. So that's why these constellations are special. This rotational motion happens up here. They'll skim below, they'll skim across the horizon, and they'll start to rise again. So there's a big circle up here of constellations that do not set. So they're very special. And everything outside that circle, those are our seasonal constellations. And we tend to see those towards the southern part of the sky. So that's actually where we're going to look. We're actually going to shift away from the northern part of the sky. Take a look at some of the seasonal things that we can't see all the time. All right, so we're going to make our way to the western part of the sky now. All we did was turn a little bit. I'm actually going to zoom out so we can see our whole sky, get a view of pretty much everything right now. So this is if you were looking up with a fisheye lens on your head. But we're going to zoom in on the western part of our sky and see what is setting, right? Remember, we have stars rising in the east and setting in the west. There's some really exciting things happening in the western part of the sky right now. But we're going to start off with 3 bright stars that are pretty easy to find. And for some reason, only 2 of them have labels right now, but that's okay. I don't need the label because I'm a professional. So we're actually going to start off with the one that's not labeled. We can actually see these 3 stars right here that form a pretty big shape in our sky. It's a really big shape, actually. It takes up a lot of sky. It's a very famous asterism called the Summer Triangle. Very creatively named because it is a triangle that we can see in the summertime. Obviously, it's not summer right now. We call it that because we start seeing it in the summertime, but it's visible through most of the year. And right now it's setting in our early evening sky, so we won't be able to see it for too much longer. But it's made of 3 stars from 3 different constellations. So we have this star right here called Deneb. There it is. And it's part of the constellation of Cygnus, the swan. Here we have Cygnus, the swan. The next bright star we have to look at is Vega, which is actually the 5th brightest star in the night sky. So it's very bright, very easy to pick out. Vega belongs to the constellation of Lyra, the harp. And then the 3rd star in our summer triangle is over here, a star called Altair, and it belongs to this diamond-shaped constellation. See that diamond shape? This is Aquila, the eagle. So again, those 3 bright stars that make up the summer triangle, very easy to spot. So go out and look for those when you can on the next clear nights. Now I want to get to, we're going to shift a little bit over here in the southwest. Take a look at one of the most exciting things going on in our sky right now. We're actually going to zoom in a little bit because we're a little far away and it looks closer than it is. So we can actually see our moon tonight, or we would if it weren't so cloudy. Thank you, Pittsburgh skies. But our moon is just past new, so it's a very new crescent phase right now, a waxing crescent phase. So it'll be getting a little bit fuller each night. But we also can see 2 planets in this part of the sky, and they are very close to one another right now, or at least they look like they're very close to one another right now. From our perspective here on Earth, we can see Saturn and Jupiter in the nighttime sky right now, and they're doing something pretty awesome right now. They're forming what's called a great conjunction, and it's called that because these are the 2 largest planets in our solar system. They're very bright in our sky. They're nice and visible. And we can actually see this with the unaided eye. So you can actually go out at night and see these planets just with your eyes. But even better if you have binoculars or a telescope maybe. but they're going to be getting closer and closer to each other until next Monday is when the conjunction officially occurs. So they're going to be so close, they're going to look like one bright star in the sky, but we're going to know, right, that it's not a star. It's two planets. So let's get a closer look. Let's take a look at Jupiter first. So we can get a closer look at the planet Jupiter. There it is. It's about 575 million miles away right now. And we can see its four largest moons, the Galilean moons, around it. If you have binoculars or a telescope, there's a very good chance you'll be able to see these moons as well. You don't need a very strong telescope to see them, so it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to look for. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. It's 11 times as wide as the Earth. You could fit over 300 Earths inside. You can see it has these beautiful, colorful stripes on its outer atmosphere, these clouds and storms that give Jupiter its stripes. And very nearby, and approaching closer every day, we have the planet Saturn. Now, Saturn, of course, famous for its beautiful rings. Oop, I'm gonna lose Saturn. There we go. So Saturn, of course, famous for its beautiful rings, and it is the second largest planet in our solar system. And over the next few days, we're going to notice Saturn and Jupiter appearing to get closer. But that's just from our perspective here on Earth. That's just how things are lining up, because Saturn is really way further out behind. It's almost twice as far away from us than Jupiter. Saturn is over 1 billion miles away right now. So even though they look like they're right next to each other, Saturn is way, 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 way further back. And they're just going to keep getting closer until Monday, when they're going to approach that closest point. And so we're hoping, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, might be able to see it if it's not cloudy here. All right. The moon, however, is going to be moving from night to night. So the moon will not be this close to these objects on Monday. But you'll be able to see these. You won't be able to mistake them. You'll know exactly what you're looking at. All right, so I want to just finish out by looking at what's going on in our southern part of our sky, because there's a lot of, on our southeastern part of our sky, because there's a lot of really cool things that we can look for that are coming up in our winter, in our late fall, in our winter skies. So we can also see that there is a third planet visible in our night sky right now. And this one's going to be visible for a little bit longer because even though Saturn and Jupiter are setting earlier and earlier each night, we won't be able to see them again until next summer. We can see the planet Mars high in the sky right now. And you'll know you're looking at Mars because it has that distinct red glow. Now, Mars is called the red planet. Gets its red color. A lot of common misconception too is that Mars is hot and that's why it's red. That's not true. Mars is a very cold place. It's a very cold planet. It's a cold desert planet, a lot colder than here on Earth. It gets its red color from the rusty iron oxide in its soil. But all of that rusty red iron oxide reflects sunlight. And we get that distinct red glow even all the way here on Earth. So you'll know you're looking at Mars. And we can see Mars has two little moons, likely captured asteroids named Phobos and Deimos. All right, so we got an awesome view of some amazing planets in our evening sky right now. Those are the ones you can see with the unaided eye. So you don't even need a telescope to see these. You can see Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars very easily. Now, high overhead, there's another big shape we can look for, 4 stars that form another a big square. There it is. This is the constellation of, here, let's clear everything else off. This is the constellation of Pegasus, the flying horse. Oops. Let's try this again. Pegasus, the flying horse. There it is. All right, so we can see Pegasus clearly on our night sky, high over our heads right now because it is a prominent fall constellation. And over in the east, we have rising some of our winter sky. So these are things to look out for, right? These are things that are rising a little earlier each night that we'll be able to see all through the winter time. Close to the horizon right now, we have a very bright star right here. This one is Capella, and it belongs to the constellation of Auriga, the charioteer. So Capella is nice and bright, almost in the north part of the sky. So you'll be able to see that one easily. We also have a bright star here, Aldebaran, kind of another orangey color. This is an orange star though. A star lives in front of this V-shaped group of stars. This is actually a star cluster called the Hyades. There's another star cluster in this part of the sky. This is the Pleiades cluster, or the Seven Sisters. Let's take a closer look at the Pleiades. Pleiades is something really awesome too to look at if you have binoculars or a telescope, because we can only see about 7 of these stars with the naked eye, but with a closer look, we can see there's a lot more. This is an open star cluster, a group of stars that travel through space together. It's one of the more beautiful things too. I love finding the Pleiades in the night sky. So the Pleiades, the Hyades, and that star Aldebaran right here are all part of the constellation of Taurus, the Bull. So you can look for Taurus rising in the east. Now, as time goes on, because the sun is setting a little earlier each night as we approach the solstice, which is on Monday also, which is really exciting, we're going to be able to see more of our winter sky as those stars rise. So keep an eye out also for the bright constellation of Orion, the hunter. You'll find Orion's belt, those 3 stars that form Orion's belt. And the bright stars Betelgeuse in his shoulder and Rigel in his knee. Betelgeuse was in the news a lot at the beginning of this year because it had actually dimmed quite a bit. Betelgeuse is a star that's at the very end of its life. And we're not exactly sure when it's going to go, but it seems to have gotten much brighter again. So we'll be able to see it nice and brilliantly in our winter sky. You can also use Orion's belt to play star hopping again to find the brightest star in our nighttime sky. No, not the North Star, right? Down here, the star called Sirius. So we'll be able to see Sirius rising in the evening sky right now. As it gets a little bit higher in the wintertime, we can only see Sirius in the wintertime, but it belongs to Canis Major, or the big dog. All right, so we looked at a lot of amazing things that we can see right now in our sky. There's a lot more, of course, that we can cover in just a quick little show. But the main thing is we want to be able to see those planets, right? So we're hoping to go outside on the next clear night, actually being able to track them getting closer and closer. And we're hoping to take a look at it for ourselves. So we're working on, and we'll have details out later today, but we're hoping to have you join us here on the Science Center Facebook page on Monday to enjoy that conjunction as well as it happens. So details will be posted later today, but hopefully we can see you then. And in the meantime, that's all I have for today's bite-sized Buhl. But keep an eye on the Science Center's Facebook page over the course of the next few weeks as we continue to bring more fun virtual programming for you to enjoy at home. But that's all I have. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.